President Trump is in town this afternoon. He visits the Port of Corpus Christi, and he's bringing along the U.S. Secretary of Energy. Next week, the Undersecretary of the Army will visit the Corpus Christi Army Depot, and Monday will mark 190 years since Texas officially declared its independence. This is South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Thank you for joining me on this Friday, February 27th. This afternoon, President Donald Trump will pay a visit to South Texas. He's scheduled to be at the Port of Corpus Christi in his first visit to the coastal bend since 2022. His arrival comes days before Tuesday's Texas primary election. Trump is scheduled to deliver remarks at the port, the nation's leading exporter of liquefied natural gas and one of the country's top petroleum hubs.
That's why he's so excited to come visit and talk with folks about it. I won't get ahead of the president on any specific announcements, but what I will say is that he understands how important this is. And a lot of his agenda is also about bringing more companies and more investment to Texas. Under the Trump administration, companies have invested billions in the state of Texas, and that will create thousands of good-paying jobs.
That was White House Deputy Press Secretary Abigail Jackson speaking with 3 News. The president's visit follows his State of the Union address earlier this week. 3 News reports he is expected to highlight fossil fuel production and exports along the Texas Gulf Coast. In a post on social media, Port of Corpus Christi officials are warning the public about counterfeit tickets being sold electronically for the event. U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright visited the coastal bend yesterday and expected to be at the Port of Corpus Christi this afternoon with President Trump. Yesterday, he toured Cheniere Energy Corpus Christi to discuss the future of Texas's energy sector.
And I think, as you all already know, the president's agenda, lower cost energy, higher wages. If you deliver low-cost energy into states and communities all across our country, you make life more affordable for the average American, and you also make businesses want to locate there. And that brings jobs and opportunity, which pushes up wages.
That was Wright speaking with KEDT's Lon Gonzalez this morning. Wright was out in Portland fueling up vehicles for people during their morning commute.
So how often do you get a chance to do this?
Not enough. But that is our goal. And there's lower energy costs for Americans and focus on the Americans, not businesses, not special interests, but actual Americans. I inserted the card too early.
Lon Gonzalez will have more on the president's visit to the port this afternoon. Senator John Cornyn will host Undersecretary of the Army Michael Obada at the Corpus Christi Army Depot, or CCAD, next Friday. Staff at the facility are facing concerns over potential job loss and a shrinking workload tied to the Army's changing helicopter repair strategy. A source familiar with the upcoming trip told Chris 6 News the visit will include a meeting with depot leaders and employees and a tour of the facility. Cornyn is also expected to be in Corpus Christi with President Trump this afternoon. The visit comes as CCAD, one of the military's primary repair centers for helicopters, faces potential impact to its workload. According to an article published in War on the Rocks, more repair work is shifting to private companies while the Army plans to reduce its helicopter fleet. Projects in the Rio Grande Valley that could conserve enough water to meet the daily needs for residents are now competing for $400 million in financing as irrigation districts seek to modernize aging canals and reduce losses. The Rio Grande Valley Business Journal reports that the North American Development Bank, or NADBank, announced it received 21 project proposals from 13 valley irrigation districts, asking for a total of $225 million. That's part of the first round of applications for its Water Resiliency Fund. NADBank's initial call for projects, which closed last month, focused on water conservation and improvement projects in Cameron, Hidalgo, Starr, and Willacy counties. The Rio Grande Valley Business Journal is in partnership with KEDT. Rural homeowners in Willacy County can now apply for home repair loans and grants through Prairie View A&M University's Willacy County Extension Office. Up to $10,000 in grants and $40,000 in loans can be awarded to those selected. Repairs include renovations, addressing health hazards, and accessibility.
We'll review the application, fill out the application. We provide that technical assistance for them. Once we complete the application, get submitted to USDA with the quote.
That was Megan Rodriguez, an agent with the Extension Office, speaking with KRGV. Once selected, a contractor would sign an agreement to work on those repairs. The application is income-based. For more information, visit Prairie View A&M's Willacy County Extension Office website. Hay supplies are tightening across the state as ranchers continue feeding cattle through a prolonged dry spell. Forecasters are calling for hotter temperatures and below average rainfall in the coming weeks, and many pastures are not recovering. 25 News Now reports that hay producers in South Texas are facing a new challenge, an invasive pasture mealybug that is damaging forage and limiting grass growth. Winter grasses have largely failed to develop, forcing ranchers to rely more heavily on hay or move cattle to other grazing areas. Producers told 25 News Now cattle are beginning to look thinner as feeding costs rise. Ranchers warn it could be a difficult spring for the livestock industry. And Monday marks 190 years since the signing of the Texas Declaration of Independence. It was a major turning point in the Texas Revolution. Settlers rebelled against the Mexican government and created the Republic of Texas, which lasted for nearly 10 years until it was annexed by the U.S. Houston Public Media's Michael Atkinson explains the history of the 1836 convention that took place there and the American influence on Texas independence.
What I'm working on today is putting a rawhide bottom on a chair.
Ben Baumgartner is the lead agricultural interpreter at the Washington on the Brazos historic site. He's reproducing chairs similar to the ones used at the 1836 convention.
If you're going to meet somewhere, you need somewhere to sit.
59 delegates from across the region were elected and came here to sign the Texas Declaration of Independence. This is where Texas became Texas, as the historic site's slogan says.
So when they arrived here at Washington on March the 1st, they actually put together a committee the first day to write a Declaration of Independence.
Tynan Shadle is an assistant site manager at Washington on the Brazos.
There is no debate about it. They know why they're there. It is read once, and it is adopted unanimously an hour later.
When a government has ceased to protect the lives, liberty, and property of the people,
the Declaration itself is about 1,400 words long. It lists grievances against the Mexican government, accusing them of violating Texans' safety, right to due process, right to bear arms, and freedom of religion.
The necessity of self-preservation, therefore, now decrees our eternal political separation.
The document has a clear influence. The U.S. Declaration of Independence, signed in 1776. This year marks its 250th anniversary.
Throughout the 1820s and the 1830s, the memory of the American Revolution had been something of a mania.
Sam Haynes is a history professor at the University of Texas at Arlington.
It shouldn't come as much of a surprise that Anglo-Americans in Texas, just like Anglo-Americans elsewhere, saw this as tyrannical and therefore a cause for revolt. The centralist government in Mexico City was seen as identical or analogous to the monarchical government that Anglo-Americans had overthrown in the 1770s.
Even the convention at Washington on the Brazos may have been by design. Here's Tynan Shadle again.
Most of these men are Americans. They're expressing their American ideals at a town called Washington, right? Most of the other towns in Texas, San Felipe de Austin, Gonzales, Goliad, these are Spanish names.
After the Declaration of Independence passed, Texan and Mexican forces fought at the Alamo just 4 days later. It lasted 90 minutes. All of the Alamo's defenders were killed. It became a defining image of the Texas Revolution, but Washington on the Brazos also played a central part in the early days of Texas. In the past 5 years, $54 million has been invested to renovate a recreated historic town site. A commemoration of Texas Independence Day at the site is planned for this weekend.
As a project for this past week, we made a flagpole.
Adam Arnold, another interpreter at the site, raises the Texas flag on that new flagpole.
You have to know where you come from. If you don't know where you come from, you can't make good decisions about where you're going.
I'm Michael Atkinson.
And that is the latest news and information on South Texas Midday. I'm Rob Boskamp. Your community arts calendar and more is on the way.